to present this evening's study session on an opportunity to enter into an MOU with Landify.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I come before you this evening with a concept, an idea, if you will, about how we can take the old abandoned, defunct outdoor gun range in Huntington Central Park and transform it into usable public open park recreational space. So you might be asking, how might that be possible? And as Ashley had mentioned, I have here tonight Jonathan Brighton from the company called Landify, and together we put together a PowerPoint that will indeed show you how that might be possible. So you also might be wondering, is this concept realistic? Is it possible? Would it even be feasible? So Jonathan and his team from Landify are prepared to go into the site and do some in-depth studies to answer those questions for us. So if there is interest among you for us to have those questions answered, we would come back to you at some time in the future with a proposed memorandum of understanding that would allow Jonathan and his team to go into the site, conduct those studies, and get back to us with those answers. Is this concept realistic? Is it possible? And is it feasible? So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. So as I mentioned, the purpose of the study is to collect feedback from you, the City Council, on whether or not to allow Landify to go into that site underneath a memorandum of understanding and can conduct those necessary studies to indeed tell us if this concept of transforming that space into open park recreational space is possible, realistic, and feasible.
Just to start off with just a few words on Landify and who we are and what we do. So Landify is the US subsidiary of Group ECT. Group ECT was created in the 1970s in the Paris area of France. And it started with the construction or the reuse of dirt that was generated by the big constructions that were happening at the time in Paris. And since then, the company completed more than 100 different projects in France and Europe. We work on a very diverse range of situations. We work on derelict sites, we work on polluted former industrial brownfields, on quarries, on illegal dump sites, on disregarded sites or environmental sensitive areas. So really a very broad range of sites that we try to heal. We work on projects to develop things, heal them first, and then develop things that are useful for the communities. We developed, as I mentioned earlier, more than 100 sites in a very broad range of types of sites. We started with parks and diversified into recreational areas, equestrian centers, renewable energies, any kind of land use development we're capable of delivering, and all of this is done through partnerships with cities, communities, any kind of land users, basically. We started our operations in California around 4 years ago, and we're currently working on 12 projects in California. We're working, for instance, in the San Francisco Bay with the US Fish and Wildlife and the Coastal Conservancy on helping them import dirt to consolidate levees in the South Bay of San Francisco. We're working with the city of Chula Vista on a project on their property. It's going to be the future university project for the city of Chula Vista, and they're going to need green areas, so we're importing dirt in preparation for this project. We're also working with the city of Vacaville near San Francisco on the redevelopment of one of their parks, and we're creating different areas, including a bike park, which is going to be a very interesting project. We started importing materials and dirt last year for this project, and we hope to complete it within the next few years. And we're also working on other projects with other cities and other kinds of types of pieces of land, like quarries or even illegal dump sites. The business model that we developed throughout the years is fairly simple. It's really, when you think about construction, when you're building something or destroying, you need to get rid of the dirt. And so the way for us is we see this, most of the people see this as a waste, we see this as a resource. And so the idea is to take this dirt, obviously making sure that it's clean, and so all The key of our expertise is in the traceability, making sure that we know where the dirt is coming from. It's been through all the analytical process, so we know it's clean. And then we get the dirt and we reuse this dirt in creating landforms that we develop. And then on the landforms, we develop whatever the community needs and in consultation with the community. So that's really how the process works. And it's really a partnership, public to private partnership. We work with all the stakeholders, including cities, landowners, and communities, to define what is required in a specific area. None of our projects look alike. They really depend on what is required by the local communities, and we co-design those projects, and then we deliver those projects for the communities. So that's really the way our model works, is first identifying pieces of land where we think that there is a potential, and so that's the case in your city with the project that we're looking at. Then we will work on defining what is required, and then once we have the project, we have all the authorization, we go through all the authorization process, then we start importing the dirt in order to deliver the project, and then once we've created the landform, we redevelop the project. And obviously, when we welcome the dirt, our customers, which are the construction companies, are paying us a tipping fee. That's 100% of our revenues. And those tipping fees are used to fund the projects that we're developing. So when I mentioned the 100 projects that we developed in Europe, all of them were funded through the tipping fees that we're developing. So that's also saving money for the communities by using the money that the construction companies are saving as well on their side, because they are going less far than they would go today. When you have a construction project in your city, you need to know that the dirt that's generated from your project can go as far as the desert, as far as Corona, very, very far from your city. So what we are trying to do is intercept those flows and reuse locally the dirt and the money generated through the dirt to fund the projects that we're developing. So that's really the whole process and the whole business model that we've developed for the past 50 years in Europe and for the past 4 years in California. Just to give you an example of the redevelopment that we're currently working on, so the project I mentioned in Vacaville, it's going to be the redevelopment of a flat park. Today it's a park owned by the city. It's flat. The city wanted to redevelop it and to create different activities, including a bike park. And obviously the funding was not there, and so we stepped in and started working with the city and the community on defining exactly what the bike park needed to look like. And once we did that, then we got obviously all the permits and the studies. And then what we're doing at the moment, we are creating the landform by importing dirt and generating the budget that's going to be used at the end to develop the bike park on top of the landform. So that's really what we're doing at the moment in Vacaville, and we would love to do it in your beautiful city as well.
And so on this slide, you can see the proposed area of focus. Again, it is the old abandoned gun range that you can see here in this diagram. It's tucked up against the backside of the sports complex on the northern tip of Sully Miller Lake. That's there off of Ellis Avenue. And so it's approximately about 8 acres of real estate that we're looking at. It is currently unusable due to the contaminants in the soil from the use of the gun range activity. And is currently designated as park open space already, and that space is also part of the Central Park Master Plan. It is today. So it is something there for us to enjoy should we find a way to work through the mitigation issues. And so the next step would be, if there is interest, to bring a memorandum of understanding back here to council at some point in time in the future that would allow Jonathan and his team at Landify to conduct those studies to tell us whether or not this is going to be something that is actually realistic, possible, and feasible. For them to conduct the studies, there's no financial risk to the city. It is all on the dime of Landify to pay for those different consultants that will be used to do those studies. And then the city, the part of the next steps would be that should the Landify go ahead and make that investment into those studies, they come back to us that yes, this is a concept that will work to mitigate the issues and to be able to put forth a new park open space issue. We could not take those test results and then run off to another company and do the exact same thing with another company. We would have to go with Landify with their findings on whether or not this is a feasible project or not. The additional next steps would be, should this study prove that the concept is feasible and realistic, that would begin the community input process. And we do that through the vehicle known as the Central Park Master Plan Update. And so much like we did with Car Park, Marina, and Edison, we let the community tell us what they want in park facilities. So it's not us deciding what we think the public wants, it's them telling us what they want in these park open spaces. Is it pickleball, is it racquetball, is it tennis? Is it simply just park recreational space with trails going through it? So we let the community have a chance to tell us what their needs and wants are for those spaces. If it is feasible, again, we will consult with the city attorney's office to make sure that there are no conflicts with Measure C and Measure L. You're all familiar with Measure C. Measure L was the ballot measure that was passed to build a sports complex. So being the close proximity to the gun range, we'd make sure that there's no conflicts with Measure L as well. We'd also, again, bring back a contract. So should we say this is going to work, let's go ahead and move forward, we'd bring a contract that would spell out the scope of work, and the project details for Landify to go ahead and conduct the import of soil and then build us that recreational facility that we desire. And then also, depending on what the community tell us they want out there, is it just passive park space with trails, or is it something more robust, a more built-out recreational facility of some sort? So there's a big variety of what that end product would look like in terms of cost and scope. And again, we would let the community tell us what their needs and wants are for that. And so with that, that concludes the presentation, and we'll open up for any questions you might have.
Any questions? Andrew?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, the overview. I think just from a very, very high level, I mean, it'd be wonderful to get 8+ acres back for open space in the city. A couple questions on the process, the procedure. So right now, we have no idea what the contaminants are, or do you have a general idea?
It's mostly lead.
It's mostly the lead.
Yeah, it was a former gun range, so it's mostly lead.
Okay. And then in your estimation, you know, with lead being the primary contaminant, what do you think a timeline on something like that would be?
This is the goal of the study, is to really
Okay.
to really do that and to look at the different techniques. There's a lot of progress in terms of bioremediation. There's a lot of funding also available for that. So a lot of things are available out there. So it's a very interesting also case study in general to look at different possibilities, and with the progress in the science, there might be very cost-efficient solutions available.
And then with your, just speaking on the project you mentioned as an example in Vacaville, how long was that whole process? Are you still in the midst of doing it? Just to really kind of use that as a benchmark or an example.
From the time the city contacted us on the project to the start of the import of the dirt, it took us basically 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
To start the project or to complete it?
Yeah, because a lot of design, so we had 4 public work sessions to design the bike park, and then we went through the different commissions, and we had a full CEQA to work on as well. So that there was lots of studies basically to be done before. So that's also why it took us a lot of time. Might be different on this side. So that's also part of the feasibility study, is how long is it going to take, with regards to how much dirt we can import on the site, and is it worth it or not?
Is the supply of dirt limited?
No.
No. Okay.
And we were talking about the Olympics, so that's also going to generate, as you can imagine, lots of works and construction and dirt. So there's also a very good and interesting source. And coming obviously from a French background, we went through the same questions for the Paris Olympics, and it's generated lots of dirt that we reused on many of our projects in the Paris area.
Fascinating concept. A couple questions for Chris. Would the plan be to run kind of a concurrent process by which you were doing the design on the park and getting public input as they were going through and determining the procedure, or would it be going through the entire process with Landify and then working with the public to determine what they were looking for in regards to the space?
Yeah, timing is definitely key. It would be a perfect situation if it were aligned with the timeline for the Central Park Master Plan. If not, we would definitely do a secondary outreach to the public. It's very important that we have the public provide their input about what kind of amenities they want in this space if it were to come to fruition.
Okay. And then in regards to the contract and the MOU, et cetera, has that gone through the Finance Commission, or would that go through the Finance Commission?
For the MOU,
For any of the details on the agreements and the MOU, yeah.
I don't believe they generally would go through the Finance Commission for a general MOU. We would definitely work step in step with the Attorney's Office to draft that up to something that they think is palatable, and then bring it to you. But of course, we could bring it to wherever is directed to do so.
Okay. That's just,
I got some, go ahead. Okay, just to kind of follow up on that. So what I heard, just to be clear, the MOU, it requires no financial commitment whatsoever, zero financial risk to us. We're basically just saying, yeah, you could go in there, poke around, let us know, what you discover, and see if it's realistic, see if it's feasible. And ultimately, no commitment either. Chris, I'm curious, are there any other organizations that provide this service that we've researched?
We have not been contacted by any, so this is the first conceptual idea that's been presented to us, but we have not shopped around for any other types of businesses like this.
Was the genesis of this them reaching out to us, or were we looking and found them?
They did approach us with the idea.
Okay. That's it.
Kind of in that same theme, so Councilman Williams kind of touched on it. So let's assume we have an MOU. You go out there, the cost, there is no cost. Even if work is conducted, you're moving soils around because I think you're monetizing the dirt. So at what point does your effort stop at no financial exposure to the city, and then you give us a buildable, basically plot, so to speak, elevated how we want, whatever that case may be, based on a vision that we give you, or based on, do you do the work with no vision first to find out? First, you got to find out if it's even feasible to move the dirt around.
It's really, everything's dictated by the volume. Obviously, really, again, as I mentioned, 100% of our revenues are generating for the tipping fees, and tipping fees is just tipping fee times the volume. So
Can you tell us what a tipping fee is? I don't know.
It varies depending on the.
I mean, what is a tipping fee?
It's what is paid by the construction company when it goes to a landfill or to a quarry to deposit dirt. It needs to pay a tipping fee. Or when you go to any landfill, you need to pay before entering into.
Okay.
Okay. That's what the construction world is paying today.
Real quick, just to educate, because I'm in the development industry. So just explain. So when you have construction projects, right? You're excavating soil, and hopefully it's clean fill, they call it, and then it needs to go somewhere, right? So what's unique about their business is they now are finding areas to bring in clean fill. On the other side, a lot of, I've been in projects where we actually need clean fill. It's actually very expensive. You have to pay for it, right? So they're actually moving the dirt around. And so that's what he's saying is you guys are getting paid by having a project that needs to offload clean fill, and they're paying you to offload it. And then now they're finding a creative solution where to bring this clean dirt, this clean fill, and also, remediate the current contamination on this 8 acres that's currently unusable. So it's an interesting business plan. But do I essentially have that correct?
It's exactly that.
Okay.
Exactly that. And so really everything's dictated by the volume. And so this is where we're going to come up all together with a design that the community accepts. And with this design, we'll be able to say that's going to be 200, 300,000 cubic yards of dirt that's going to be needed to be imported. Is that going to work financially for us or not? So that really the end result of the feasibility is how complicated is it going to be in terms of studies and what the costs of the studies are going to be, and then what the design is going to be, or what the landform is going to look like, and what it's going to generate in terms of revenue, and is that going to enough to fund the project or not?
The word tipping, though, is just as the truck bed tipping the dirt out, isn't it? That's the kind of the tipping fee is the truck tipping its bed.
That's why
and dumping. Instead of a dumping fee, they call it tipping.
Yeah, it's got different names, but yeah, dump fee is another word that's used.
Is this an export site or an import site?
It would be an import site.
But you got to export all the bad stuff out and then bring good stuff in.
That's the question also with the feasibility study, the capacity that we have to potentially keep the dirt on site, and because you're bringing in extra dirt to confine the pollution with the dirt that you're doing. We have several examples, obviously in Paris, of former brownfields where we used this 30 years ago. We used the dirt to confine the pollution, and so now you can see today, 30 years after, everything grew, and you've got recreational areas. So the capacity that you have to put geotextile to cover that with dirt, in order to basically not move the dirt, because that's very costly, obviously, to do, and also other techniques that are available, bioremediation, as I mentioned. So really the goal is to see what can be done on site. If some of it needs to be off hold, then the cost of all of that put together with, in front of that, the revenues that are going to be generated by the project, is that working or not? Okay. So that's the whole feasibility study's objective.
So on this site, do you also do remediation, or do you purely just move dirt and you take the expense to move the dirt based on the benefit for the person that needs the dirt moved? Or are you also in the construction business where you have people to pay for remediation and things like that?
We don't do it ourselves. We pay external providers, but we don't do it ourselves.
Okay, and you pay them by the tipping fee?
We pay them. No, well, that's going to be really on how much it's going to cost, depending on the volume that needs to be off hold. So they're going to tell you need to off hold, 10,000 cubic yards. The cost is, I don't know, $100,000, and that's the cost that needs to be supported by the project.
And when you say by the project, do you mean by the city?
No, by it.
By the project. Okay.
So Don, so basically what they'll look at it and go, okay, we have, just rough numbers, say, to keep it small, like 100 cubic yards of dirty soil that we need to off-haul. What's that cost? X. All right, and then now their business is to bring in clean fill, and they'll get paid for that. So that's the analysis they're going to do, is assess how much dirty soil is there, how much they have to take out, what that cost is, and then will it be positive for them to actually do that, and then bring in clean fill from their other projects to backfill that. Correct? Do I have that correct?
Exactly.
So that's like the calculus they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So you make that determination as part of the MOU, right? And at that point, in that scenario, at this point, there's no financial dollars coming out of our coffers at this point. You're managing the project. There's money moving in, dirt moving out. There's paid balances, and that's all done basically internally between your vendors, you, the dirt, the movement, the transportation. Then we get to a point where we have a buildable site, right? That's the goal, and then we come to you and we say we've listened to the public and they want X, Y, and Z. Who then puts a cost analysis? You guys, Landify, or are you out of the picture at that point? Other than you might say, hey, do you want us to build some hills? But after that, you're not in the infrastructure game, right?
No, we use external providers. So the good example is the bike park we're developing with the city of Vacaville. So the way that we worked with the city is working with consultants. We, on the design phase, we obviously supported the cost of the consultants. It's a much larger project. We're talking about 1 million cubic yard of dirt. So that's capable of covering the cost of the constructions that are going to be on top. So the city's not going to pay $1 for the project at the end. But because of the large volume here, we need to see what kind of volume we're talking about, if we're capable of covering 100%, 50% of the cost of what's going to be developed on top. So that's also the whole feasibility study, is not only we're covering the cost of the studies, but we're also trying to cover the cost of what's going to be developed on top. So I don't know what, let's say soccer field, for instance, that you want to develop, we're capable of, covering the 20%, 30%, depending on, again, all the costs that we put together for the creation of the project.
And as part of your business model, if you can't cover the entire cost and we have a project that we like, are we committed to your contractors, your relationships as part of the Landify, agreement, or we can utilize whoever we need?
Same thing for the studies. We work with people that the city are used to working with. For instance, the bike park we worked in Vacaville. The landscaping company was a landscaping company that was used by the city on previous projects, so they knew very very well the site. So we used them for our project as well. So we're very flexible in terms of who we use. We want to be as efficient as quick as possible. So we prefer working with people who know, obviously, the projects already and who are accustomed to the city.
So this would be my last question because I don't want to monopolize you. So the first goal, if we were to move forward with you, is you're going to determine how you can give us a clean soil platform, basically. Remediate, bring in and cover, whatever the case may be, but you're going to say, well, you're going to study, and you're going to determine how much contamination's there, what it's going to take to remediate it, cover it, move it, whatever, to make sure it passes through all the environmental checks and balances that our state has. That's your initial goal, right?
Correct.
I mean, how fast do you make that determination of what you think it would encompass? We say yes on that check, and then completion. I guess that's based on the scope, but how fast till you get to point A, decision? Do you want to move for you, Landify, this makes sense, or it doesn't?
The quicker the better. It's going to really depend on the answers. We're going to work also with the agencies, and it's really going to depend on their timings as well. So the quicker the better. A couple of months would be really the maximum for us.
Is there a tail to your contract? We say, well, we don't like it right now. Are we bound by anything?
No. The only thing is if you develop something using our model in the future, so it's doing it with us. So if you say, thank you very much, goodbye Landify, and the day after you hire a company to do exactly the same project by importing dirt and creating a landform, that's where, we gave obviously all the investment that we're putting on front is also to make sure that we work together if you develop, but you can develop anything else without us.
If we say we want to develop a park and we didn't use you, we can't develop a park, is that what you're saying?
You can develop a flat park. It's develop a park using our model, which is importing dirt and creating a landform.
Okay. Shape. We could still have a park with different shapings.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Could I follow up with some more questions? Just curious. As far as the sports complex goes and the footprint of that, Chris, you might know the answer to this. You brought up the sports complex and how there might be a conflict with Measure L. Does that footprint go out to where the old gun range is? Would that be considered sports complex, or is it just that open space park recreation?
Yeah, it shows that the gun range space is separate from the footprint of the sports complex.
Okay.
But just for over precaution, we would definitely make sure and ask legal opinions on whether or not there's any type of conflict, depending on what the project scope is in the end.
Yeah. And then, is it Mr. Brighton? Is that your?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Have you had an opportunity to familiarize yourself at all with Measure C and Measure L? We're kind of a peculiar city in that sense.
Yeah, Chris told us about it. Yes, it's very peculiar, but yeah, I mean, it's part of the process. Every city has, specific process, so we're,
Just out of curiosity, when you do these feasibility studies, and obviously you're looking at whether or not the ground is toxic, there's most likely going to be lead from the gun range. What does that process look like? Are you drilling into the ground and testing the soils? I'm just curious, timeline-wise, how long it takes, and maybe not an exact dollar amount, but what type of investment is this? Because what I'm concerned about is maybe we're putting the cart before the horse. What if you do this feasibility study and you put a lot of energy and finances into it just to discover that Measure C and Measure L are a conflict and this would require a vote of the people in order to go forward? We'd be wasting your time and be wasting your resources.
That's why the idea of the feasibility study is working on all the aspects, so the pollution level, but also all the political side of things to see how we can phase the project or structure the project in order to take this into consideration. But that's exactly part of the feasibility study. If we see that it's going to take us 3 years, that's obviously going to be something that's going to be included in the feasibility study for us.
Okay, so that's prior to the MOU, is that right?
It's with the within the MOU that allows us to start investigating those aspects.
Okay, so if we sign off on an MOU, we might discover in that process that this is a conflict with Measure C and Measure L. I'm just concerned that might be putting the cart before the horse with all the effort you'd be putting forward.
And can you guys correct me if I'm wrong? There's an additional process that'll take place where we create another contract to actually develop the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
The
So-
MOU is just a starting point.
Yes, right. This initial MOU is just for studies. Then again, if it is something that is shown to be realistic and feasible, then the next step would be to develop a new contract with Landify that spells out all the details the scope of the project, the timeline, all the nuts and bolts of what that would mean in conducting that project.
Including environmental analysis and doing all that, like
Absolutely.
EIR work and, okay.
And I do believe a lot of that will be covered in the initial study too as well. What kind of different entitlements, Measure C conflicts, if any, also all the different other outside agencies, CEQA issues, all the other regulatory agencies will also be studied and revealed through the initial study as well.
And just so Landify is going into it eyes wide open, I know that sports complex, used to be a mushroom and landfill, so there might be a little bit more than lead in there when you go poking around.
We know. And you've got a landfill next to it as well.
Good?
Before we would ever get to a vote of the people, you would be cost neutral anyway, because in your scope, before you move one, truck of dirt, you're going to make determinations that can I do this and basically balance my costs. So, so even if it never passed with the people, you really aren't at risk for anything other than time, because you've already made a calculation that your costs will be covered by the way you manipulate movement of dirt and, move it in, get paid, move it out, things like that, right? So even if you gave us a buildable parcel and the public said, no, we don't want that, you're really not at risk. You have your time at risk, but your capital's covered based on how your business model works anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the only risk is exactly what Council Member mentioned. It's really the first, studies. And that's the case in every city. When we start a feasibility study, that's the money that we have at risk, but it's something that we need in order to make sure that we have, the right answers, and that we investigate things properly to see if the project works on all the aspects.
Good? Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up is a